Welcome to Towel Capes. I'm Cody Nestor. He's Todd Heel.
What's up, guys?
And today we're here to talk about Mad Max Fury Road, Todd. So,
Okay.
Is it too much? Is it too much energy at the start?
Am I too hyped up at the beginning? Okay.
Todd, what did you think this...
From-
Wow, we going with it.
Okay.
What did you think the story was?
So we're very briefly reintroduced to Mad Max. He's very quickly set upon and attacked. We see him taken back to a place called the Citadel. We learn of a ruler called Immortan Joe. And he kind of has a second in command. Furiosa, I think her title is Imperator. She's supposed to be making a run with some gang members to Gasoline Town.
Yeah, and the Bullet Farm.
And the Bullet Farm.
Yep.
But she's got other ideas. She kind of veers off into the desert because she's hauling some precious cargo. She's got Joe's chicks, his breeders, his girls.
Say the name, Todd.
Yeah.
Say what you said before the podcast.
She's got Joe's bitches, okay? She's got Joe's bitches.
Joe's bitches.
And she's on the run. She's on the lam. She's taking them back to her home place they call the Green Place.
Green Place, yes.
And that's it.
That's it. I mean, that's it. There's a lot in there, but that's it.
Mm-hmm.
How do you view Fury Road compared to the other three Mad Max films in terms of continuity? Like, how do you fit it into continuity of the Mad Max films, or do you?
I think it fits in because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he still has flashbacks to the death of his daughter. And I think that's the kid that keeps popping up in some of his nightmares and visions. So It's just definitely in continuity. I see it after the first three. Like you've got Mad Max, Road Warrior, what was it, Beyond Thunderdome, and then you have this. Is the way I look at it. Now, I may be wrong.
No, I don't know what the actual real answer is. I'm sure someone's probably studied it and
did a timeline.
Yeah, but I think George Miller, from what I've read, he's not obviously too concerned about. He wasn't too concerned about in the original Mad Max trilogy, because like you have that pilot dude. I think he's in Road Warrior, some character, and then he's in the pilot in Thunderdome.
Oh yeah,
like that kind of stuff. He's not so much worried about continuity. To me, this almost feels like kind of a, for lack of a better word, kind of a soft reboot. Like we take elements, from the previous, Dead Family and these Mad Max. We know enough about the character from the established continuity of the other films, but it kind of feels like we're borrowing elements and we're turning it into something that kind of stands on its own.
True.
So that's why I kind of wanted to ask you about like what you thought. Like if you like, I don't disagree. You can fit it in. I think it does fit in enough. But like for me, I kind of see it as like it kind of steps into its own. Maybe it's like a parallel universe version of Mad Max.
I see that point too. Yeah,
if you will, you're kind of borrowing stuff and kind of adding to it.
Yeah.
For me though, going back and watching it, I haven't come back to this film as much as I should have. Like going back and watching now, I forgot what an amazing film this is, and what an absolute kind of achievement this film is, like from start to finish, because it like really never lets up. And it's made to be like that. It's made to be like one continuous, ever moving kind of force. Like it's kind of, it's all shot in sequence, and it's kind of made to you can literally watch this with no sound and understand what's going on at every point.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of how it's made, and like that's kind of an achievement on its own. And like I know a lot has been said about this film about how good it is, but just having not watched it in so long, like we're coming up on Furiosa, like going to see that, and we've heard really good things about Furiosa. That's really kind of hyping me up for it. But like, it can't be overstated just how good this film is. Like, especially. You get some really strong stuff with the original Mad Max movies, but again, I think this just takes it to a whole nother level.
Yeah, I mean, there's like everybody else is post-apocalyptic stuff, and then there's what George Miller does.
Yeah, and it doesn't. It is obviously a post-apocalyptic world, and I have a little note about some of the design choices, but like, it has its own like distinct style, and it's not dreary, and it's not like kind of sullen. It's even kind of like some of the other Mad Max films can do. And I think the reason you lean into that back in the day is because you don't have the ability to have such a big budget and spectacle like you did.
Right.
So it has its own style, and I think it works for like the Road Warrior and those kind of movies. But like this has such a style to it where like you don't get kind of bogged down by the post-apocalyptic stuff. Like it's set in such a beautiful looking wasteland, I guess I would say. You mentioned too, Max at the beginning of the film. He gets pretty much immediately caught and captured by the war boys.
Yeah, it's in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, and it really breaks my heart that badass interceptor is like
Oh, yeah.
destroyed in like the first 10 minutes of the film. Is that a top 10 movie car of all time, Todd?
I think it's got to be up there, yeah.
I would say it's in the top 10. I don't know if I can put it top 5, but like
I think if you're doing a top 10, it's there.
it's got to be there. Like that Interceptor is such a badass, like kind of classic movie car. Again, featured more prominently in the other Mad Max films, as we see here. It's kind of destroyed. One of them's driving it though at the end, right? Like they've repaired it. That one that's like kind of with Lex Luthor, Nicholas Holt.
Yeah, it was the one that was kind of his, I guess, buddy or partner or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I forget his name, but they've kind of repaired it, kind of drive it.
You're using it, yeah.
Ever ate a lizard, Todd?
No, I can honestly say on film I have not.
Yeah, I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if I
You will be a true believer.
a lot of aspects that make this film great. So what aspect of the film do you think is the most like underrated, kind of slept on part of it that's led to the success? Is it cinematography, like the color palette, world building, characters, vehicles, makeup, costume design, the performances? What do you think is the most underrated kind of aspect of the film?
For me, I think the thing that really struck me when I rewatched this was the characterizations. Particularly, I want to highlight Max himself, Tom Hardy. He does, this entire movie almost seem like a borderline not sociopath, but a psychotic, like maybe almost insane. And like his movements, like I know in particular that scene where he comes upon the tanker and, they're all washing herself off the water, just the way he's like, with that sawed off shotgun. He just seems he's very frantic, very, very schizo almost in a way.
Right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's obviously coming off some shit going down with the war boys. They've like captured him. They've kind of like branded him and tattooed him. He's like a universal donor because he's like an O blood type.
He was basically that one guy's IV bag, a blood bag.
Yeah, that's what he calls him. Yeah, the blood bag. Yeah, some of the characterization, I mean, there's so many things, like kind of regarding the look of the film. I have this note here that I kind of found interesting. So director George Miller laid down 2 stipulations for the production to follow. Firstly, the cinematography would be as colorful as possible in order to differentiate the film from other post-apocalyptic movies, which you kind of mentioned. It has its own distinct look. Those other post-apocalyptic movies, they typically have bleak, desaturated colors. During pre-production, the initial concept was for a black and white film. However, producers strongly advised against this as they believed it would deter audiences. And we would see his original concept would come out. Do you remember that, like, what was it called? The black and chrome edition?
I've saw that. I mean, I haven't actually saw it, but I've saw that available. Yeah.
So he actually got to kind of live that through. But, like, I mean, the art direction here, the cinematography, like, it's such a good looking movie. Like, and there's some enhancements done with some special effects that we'll talk about, but like it just looks so good. And like John Seal is his name. He came out of retirement to actually head the film cinematography. It just, from as far as like filmmaking goes, like it's like a master class in like how to direct a film and how to set it up and how to like make something and take something that's not meant to look beautiful and make it look beautiful and make it interesting and make it different from all the other shit we've seen before.
Right.
Like the same old. You expect like a post-apocalyptic world, grays and browns.
Drab, raining.
You look at the sky in the background. There was a couple scenes like I think there was like maybe that scene you were talking about where he's like drinking from the hose or something, and you're just seeing like these beautiful like blue skies behind him. And I think they actually did some manipulation of that and stuff to kind of like add it in and change it. But like it works, and it's such a contrast to what you see or what you expect to see, I guess, going into like a Mad Max film, I would say.
Yeah.
What else do you think is kind of something that's overlooked in this film that people don't gotta give enough credit to, besides characterizations, besides maybe the look of it? Obviously, the action is heavily praised, but what is something else maybe that you think is people don't really give as much credit to?
I mean, like I've kind of, in my own stupidly terms, but it's kind of a simple story, but it works, And the story is very simple. She stole Joe's breeders, his girls, and she's wanting to take them back home to her home that she remembers, and trying to set them up with a better life. I mean, they kind of pick up Max along the way, but that's basically it. It's a simple story, but it works, and a lot of the characterizations of those girls, Furiosa herself, particularly that old lady with the bag of seeds.
Mm-hmm.
In any other action movie, she would have clutched those bag of seeds. She would have got shot in the head. They would have went flying everywhere, and that'd have been the end of her.
Right.
She gets hurt. Spoiler alert. She gets hurt. She gets injured in the final. Go back to the Citadel.
Oh, she get a chainsaw to the neck.
Yeah. But she reaches back behind her and she gets that bag of seeds and she holds them things and she keeps them on her till she dies. Mm-hmm. And she holds on as long as she can. And that one girl she'd kind of been talking to kind of reaches back and makes sure they go to the Citadel and they go forward.
Right.
That's a nice touch to me. That's nice stuff.
It is. There's little stuff like that sprinkled throughout. It never gets too dour, and there's always a little ray of hope in it. And we'll kind of talk about performances, I think, but I think there's a lot of culmination of things that make this so great. I know the action is praised, how it's everything's always in moving, and there's always momentum, and some of the filming and the ways that it was made, all that stuff has been talked over and stuff. But I just wanted to kind of talk about and kind of highlight some of the other stuff that people don't go into as much, and
yeah, I mean, you think George Miller, you think, crazy vehicles, wild-looking vehicles, even wilder-looking people.
Talking pigs?
Yeah, talking pigs, weird stuff.
Babe Pig in the City
but
stuff.
But you kind of forget then, he was good with characterization. He's good with, taking maybe just a simple story and, embellishing upon it and making it work with all that other stuff.
Yep, this is true. Besides Immortan Joe, I didn't remember an element of the film I've forgotten is all the other people and their cancerous growths.
Oh yeah,
that they had on them. I didn't even remember that from when going back to this, and I'm like, why's everybody got tumors? And
even
I'm
Nicholas Holt's character had
he
had named them.
Yeah, he has didn't he have a little face or something?
Little smiley faces on him.
Yeah, he's if this doesn't get me the night fevers or something like that. Will and I forgot about that element. There's so much world building, with the War Boys and the kind of the warlord mentality that's set up. You have Immortan Joe over the Citadel and kind of over mostly everything, I would say, in the area. But the War Boy dynamic, their praising of the V8, that little hand symbol they do.
Oh yeah,
that's supposed to represent the V8. The chrome spray paint, the religious, the religious kind of symbolism and the metaphors of being carried into Walhalla or meeting you in Walhalla, all that world building is it's so fantastic. Then you have this element of we forget this is a bombed out kind of irradiated hellscape wasteland that there would be people that have these cancerous kind of growths, and that's the whole reason for Joe's wives is they are the perfect specimens that are still kind of left there that can have these kind of change, mutated children. Mutated children. And again, that's another element here. Also have the stuff of mother's milk. Joe's just got some BB dubs, just getting milked and
right.
what I mean? It's all over the place. And then you have real actors with you have I think the little person and
that guy.
And then you have the contrast of the little person and you have the big guy. I think his name is Rictus Erectus. That's really his name, Todd.
Oh.
Rictus Erectus Squink. Yeah. But I'm it's just stuff like that is just it's just so good. And the talking about the visual effects, the film is praised for its practical effects. And it's about 80% practical effects from what I read. And it's got limited special effects. How did you feel about the special effects in the film? Is there one you really liked? Anything that stuck out as cringe?
Nothing that really stuck out as cringe at all. There was some stuff that I was surprised that was CGI. Sure, I think Furiosa's prosthetic was CGI.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought of all things, sure, they could make her a metal arm.
Yeah, I think I read she actually, during a scene, she accidentally elbowed Tom Hardy in the nose and broke his nose while she was wearing that green sleeve for her prosthetic. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that really stands out.
But some of that stuff they do with the sky, I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah,
the way it looks.
there's a scene where they drive into that I I guess it's like a sandstorm, like sand tornado kind of things. Like there's extra visuals added, and like there's a lot of stuff. Like the note I had here that did say over 80% of the effects seen in the film are practical, including stunts, makeup, and sets. CGI was used sparingly, mainly to enhance the Namibian landscape, remove stunt rigging, and for, like you said, Furiosa's left arm, which is a prosthetic limb.
Yeah, and especially, I think there's that scene where like the rig gets stuck in that kind of muddy mire, and that's supposed to be nighttime. But they say, I heard they filmed it in broad daylight. And
Yeah,
they just
like
done something to
change
oversaturated the
it,
film, and that's beautiful.
yeah,
the way
change
that
like
looks.
the exposure of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole bullet farmer scene. Yeah, that's all fantastic. With I was mentioning, she kind of broke Tom Hardy's nose and stuff. Let's talk about, I guess, the performances here, because to overlook those would be criminal. Like, what do you think about Tom Hardy as Max? Obviously, we had Mel Gibson for 3 movies. He was everyone's definitive Mad Max. He was the only Mad Max he ever had. I read he gave his blessing for this film. He gave Tom Hardy his blessing. What do you think about Tom Hardy standing on his own as Max, but then also comparatively to Mel Gibson?
I really love Tom Hardy in this role. Like I say, it's not like one of those generic, like, the hero guy, with the gun slung over his shoulder and the slow-mo walking and the
It's very much an anti-hero.
He's very much an anti-hero. You get, he doesn't want to be there. He would have been happy just stealing that truck and leaving them.
Exactly.
If it wasn't for them kill switches that Furiosa had rigged up, he would have been gone.
Right.
And, like I mentioned earlier, just the way he kind of portrayed Max is almost this kind of tortured soul, kind of almost on the version of being maybe a psychotic itself. I loved it.
I mean, all the experiences that, again, where does this fit in? Man?
Yeah.
What experiences has he had so far within the Mad Max films that we've seen, or what experiences he had outside of those things that are just kind of part of him? But like, yeah, the performance here, I mean, it's very understated.
Yeah.
Like, I think I read that he has, like, all told, minus like grunts and little things, he has like 52 lines in the whole thing.
You don't say a lot.
He doesn't speak a lot. Like, and it's like a very understated role, but like, I couldn't really at this point imagine anyone else stepping into that role as good as he did.
No.
Like, I'm a Mel Gibson fan. I know he had his thing.
He went through his
I
problems.
know he had his stuff,
had his
but like, I've
issues.
always viewed him as like a very likable, very personable guy.
Yeah.
Until he's drunk. And he gets pulled over on the highway.
Right.
But I like Mel Gibson. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna stand with Mel. He's paid his penance for the shit he pulled and stuff. But like, I've always liked him, and I've never really not liked a Mel Gibson performance. And again, like, that was some of his earlier stuff, and like, he does a great job in that.
Yeah, yeah.
But like, Tom Hardy in this, again, I can't see anybody else kind of stepping into it as well as he did.
No, he kind of made it his own.
He did. In a way, like, it is enough. There is a difference between him and Mel. Like, there's a good enough difference. There's enough similarities there and enough differences to kind of set them apart and kind of feel different, with kind of evoking the feel of what Mad Max kind of should be. What about Charlize Theron as Furiosa?
I mean, she's amazing in this role. She's a very tortured soul, and especially when she, spoiler alert again, when she gets back to where she thinks is her home, and where's the green places? It should be right here, and they're like, no, if you come that way, you passed it a while back where all those vultures were. And she just kind of goes out into the middle of the desert and just hits her knees and just sobs because everything she remembered that was took from her as a child, it's gone.
It's gone. Yeah, I think, this does a good job of having like almost dual leads. You could argue that it's a more Furiosa movie than it is a Max movie. That's not a detriment. That's not a complaint. Like, I think she's great. It's good to see that you can, in a film, you can have a strong male lead and you can have a strong female lead and never do disservice to either.
Yeah.
You don't have to make one feel weak to prop up the other like you do in a lot of films. Like, they are on equal footing. Obviously, they're kind of adversarial at the beginning because he just wants to get this thing off his fucking face and a drink of water and to be done with all this.
Yeah.
And she obviously wants to get these girls away from Joe and back to her home, and there's an adversarial dynamic that kind of moves into like an uneasy alliance until like a mutual respect, and like it grows throughout a 2-hour runtime.
Yeah.
Like, the performances here, like, they're all great. I'm like, everybody in this movie shines. Like, from the supporting cast to the main characters, like, it's all It's all fantastic.
Yeah.
Before I move on to some behind the scenes drama, Todd, what do you think about Max's look, like his attire?
I thought very close to the classic look for Max. I thought it was pretty spot on.
Yeah, I love the look. I love the jacket. I was reading here. It says the jacket worn by Tom Hardy is a replica of the one worn by Mel Gibson in the last two movies of the original trilogy. The original Gibson jacket was found in storage at Kennedy Miller and copied heavily for it.
Nice.
Like I just love that look. Like one long sleeve, one short sleeve, the kind of armorish kind of padding on the one side. Like I really love the look. But you can't talk about Mad Max Fury Road, Todd, without talking about the behind-the-scenes drama.
Oh, man.
It was not an easy production, to say the least.
Okay.
At the end of the day, pretty much everyone hated everybody. George Miller didn't get along with Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron did not get along. At some points, her and George Miller didn't get along. Like, it was a very, I mean, and you kind of got to imagine, too, not only are movies stressful enough on their own, you're talking about, like, this big-budget movie out in the middle of a desert. It's got to be hot as balls. I'm like, you want me to do what, George? Yeah. Like, there was a lot of, like, we didn't know what we were doing or what we were shooting on the day. I read this and found this note. It says, in a Cannes press conference for the movie, Tom Hardy apologized to George Miller for the reportedly complicated relationship between the star and the director during filming. He stated, there was no way, I have to apologize to you because I got frustrated. There was no way George could have explained what he could see in the sand when we were out there. Because of the due diligence that was required to make everything safe and so simple, what I saw was a relentless barrage of complexities simplified for this fairly linear story. I knew he was brilliant, but I didn't know how brilliant until I saw it. So my first reaction was, oh my God, I owe George an apology for being so myopic. Charlize Theron mentioned similar experiences where she had no idea what she was filming, up to the point where she would ask the director what the hell he was doing. In the end, seeing the finished film greatly exceeded her expectations as well. And again, this movie's kind of carried that, like, if you know anything about the behind the scenes stuff, a lot of people know that Charlize and Tom didn't get along.
Right.
And it's kind of a shame because they're so good on screen.
Yeah.
Like their relationship on screen, like, is so good, and their dynamic is so good, and they play so well off of each other. It's a shame that, like, they kind of hated each other
in real life,
making this whole thing. And I don't know if they've patched up that divide, but hopefully they do. But I don't know that we'll ever see those two again back on screen for a Mad Max film, but which is a shame. But as far as what we get here, they both knock it out of the park.
Oh yeah, definitely.
For me, Todd, I don't know about you, my favorite sequence in the whole film is the canyon chase.
Canyon chase is awesome.
The canyon chase, by far, personally, it's my favorite. Like, would you say that's the best scene? Do you have another favorite in mind?
Two major ones are definitely the canyon one, and you've got the race back to the Citadel, which is also awesome. But I can see the argument for the canyon scene. I like them both.
Canyon?
Not cannon. Canyon.
Canyon scene? Yeah.
Not cannon. Canyon.
Yeah, so, it's just like the setup. Like, she's kind of bartered her, crossing against these. I forget how they kind of remark them, like raiders or something like that. Furiosa's kind of like paid a toll. She's brought along some extra fuel to pay to those guys. It goes south. They end up kind of blowing that canyon up, kind of like set up to where it's like Joe and them have to kind of like pass through it.
Yeah.
And he's the only one. He changes cars at one point, I think, to like a more monster truck.
Some big monster truck looking thing.
Yeah, to like kind of rock crawl over those canyons. But like the whole chase is like great. Like, just like there's a moment where like the engine's on fire because it's been bombed by those like exploding spears that the war boys keep throwing.
Yeah, and those motorcycle guys are like, jumping off the little cliffs and dropping grenades down on it.
Right, exactly. Like the engine's on fire, and like there's a part where like Furiosa kind of like hits the little like nose, like I guess scoop or scrape in the front, and it's like throwing sand back to like kind of like cool those fires and put them out. But like the music is swelling, like the chase is in like full, like it's in its full epicness, and I'm like just watching. I'm like, man, this is so fucking awesome. I'm like, the music is just hitting, the scenery is hitting, like this chase is epic. I'm like, it just keeps raising the bar every time. And like how everything concludes with like, Joe chasing them and like one of his brides, what's her name? Ingrid?
Yeah.
Splendid, whatever her name is.
She kind of gets, she falls off the rig, and I think he kind of runs over her.
Yeah, and it's a great little moment too, where like all the other the wives of Joe are like, "You got to stop. We got to go back." And like Max is like, "No," and they're like, "Why?" And he's like, "She went under the wheels." And Furious is like, "Are you sure?" He's like, "She went. She went under the
She
wheels."
went under the wheels.
Like it's just so good. Like it's all that.
Then there's that scene with like I guess it's Joe and that guy's supposed to be like maybe the doctor or
He's
physician.
the one that hooked up Max as the blood bag earlier. Yeah.
He's kind of like, can you save the baby? Well, let me see. Fling, fling, fling,
Fling, fling,
fling.
yeah. Cut the umbilical cord. Here's the little baby feet.
Yeah,
It's kind of a little messed up little scene, honestly.
He's like, sorry, boss. It could have been. It was a perfect child.
And then like Rictus, the big guy, is like, I had a baby brother. He was perfect. Like it's so weird, but it's so good. Like it just works. We were talking before the podcast that we forgot about some of the wives of Joe. Obviously, we have the splendid Angerid, whatever her name is, Rosie Huntington Whiteley. I may remember her from Dark of the Moon, taking over from Megan Fox.
Okay. I knew she looked familiar.
We were talking about Zoe Kravitz before the
one
podcast.
I had totally forgot. Yeah.
Toast the Knowing. And it's kind of funny. Her name is Toast the Knowing, and she's the only one that has any idea how to like work guns and how guns work, how to load them, and what the ammo is.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a nice little touch.
Yeah.
You have the Dag, which is Abby Lee. She's the kind of the foul mouthed one. She's the one that keeps calling everybody schlangers, which is like Australian for cock.
Oh.
Yeah. It's like Foster's beer. It's like schlanger, Australian for cock. You know. Kind of thing. I think the word dag too, if I'm not mistaken. I heard this a long time ago. I think the word dag in Australia means like the clumped piece of poop on a sheep's ass or something like that.
Very specific.
I'm pretty sure that's what it means. People can fact check me.
Is that why you always call me the dag of the show?
The dag of the show, yeah. That's how I'm going to introduce you from now on. My co-host, the dag of the show, Todd Hill. We also have Cheeto the Fragile. I think that's the one that has the hots for
Lex Luthor.
Lex Luthor,
Okay.
Nicholas Holt's character,
Nicholas
I
Holt's
think.
character.
And the other one's name is Capable, and I think she's the one, if I'm not mistaken, she's the one that keeps wanting to like defect and go back to Joe.
Oh yeah.
Like at one point, she tries to run to him, and like Charlie shoots a dude off a bike, and then later on, she tells Rictus, she's like, "Oh, bring me over," and like pulls her across, like in some of the latter scenes. I think that's the one that wants to like go back and defect. That's kind of not into this so much. You mentioned earlier the bullet farmer scene, so like that's the scene where the dude the Mad Max's and Furiosa's, their war rig is like stuck in the mud, and everybody else is kind of having a hard time getting through too. So they tell the bullet farmer to take his little tank thing up ahead and like try to figure out what's going on and see what they can do. Like that whole scene again, like that blue lighting, like the way it's like the way the scene is lit, everything that they've done to overexpose the scene to change it, and like again you see the characters working together. Like I think at one point Toast tells Max he has like 4 shots with that rifle, and he uses like 3 of them and misses, and then he lets Furiosa take the last shot, and she ends up like blinding the dude.
Yeah, and there's a part in that scene. I don't know if it was meant to be funny, but it cracked me up because she shoots the guy, and and it goes back to him.
I know what you're talking about.
And that dude's like, "Have you lit the flare?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yes, right here in front of your face."
Yeah. Hold
Are
the
you
light.
sure?
Hold the light in front of my face. It's in front of your eyes.
It's in front of your eyes right now.
You're fucking blind. You fucking Charlie Millsap right now.
And then he comes back and he's like, I am justice because justice is blind.
Yeah, the scales of justice,
Yeah.
and he's just firing blindly. I love too, like the climax of that scene. Like he tells them to like take the truck on up a little ways or whatever, something like that. I can't remember exactly what Max tells him, and he goes and like you never see what happens. It's completely off screen.
Yeah.
You hear some like gunfire and stuff, and he comes back and he's like loaded to the nines. He's like stolen all their ammo. He's got a bag full of like ammunition. He's like, you think he's bleeding from the head. I think Zoe Kravitz or somebody's like, "Oh, is that your blood?" And Furious is like, that's not his blood. Like it's just such a badass thing. And again, it could have been like a long drawn out thing, but to keep everything moving and make Max look like even more of a badass.
Badass.
You just get this off screen where he's taking out this whole tank, taking out the blind bullet farmer now, like all off screen, and like without seeing it, it makes it 10 times better than actually seeing like a long kind of drawn out fight. You kind of mentioned the green place a little bit before time, but like you want to kind of set up what happens when they actually make it to what she thought was the green place. And
So they kind of make it there, and they start to see some, I guess, kind of older warrior women kind of working their way out of the desert. We find out it's some of Furiosa's people. They kind of come to recognize her as, you know, she grew up there. She was a child there. And of course, she's kind of like, well, where's the green stuff? Where is the green place?
Where's the green stuff? That's what you mean.
And they're like, well, if you came from this direction, you passed through it. You remember all those vultures? You know, that's where it was. You know, I think they mentioned something about, you know, the water ran out, the land kind of dried up. You know, they had to move on. It just kind of became part of the wasteland. And she's so emotionally just distraught. She just loses it because the home she thought she was returning to, it's gone.
It's gone. Yeah, the oasis that she promised these girls is no longer there. Like everything else, it's all turned to hell. And something else that I should mention too, Todd, if people are still watching at this point in the video, this would be a good time to actually like and subscribe to the video, Todd, don't you think?
Yeah, hit that notification bell,
Yeah,
all that
exactly.
good stuff.
Yeah, liking and subscribing to the channel definitely does help us out. It lets YouTube know that you're interested in the content. And if you're still watching at this point in the video, we appreciate you sticking around with us.
Oh, yeah.
Todd, you want to kind of set up what's the plan here after they've made it to the green place? It looks like Max is just going to go his own way. Looks like Furiosa and the wives are like just going to take their chances, just riding out on these bikes into the salt lands, 160 days worth of food and water. But what is the ultimate plan to end up being? We've went all this way to get away from the Citadel.
So the plan is to turn around and go right back.
Right?
Because Max kind of figures if you meet what's left of Joe's squad right there in that canyon, you can kind of battle it out there, seal them off, and make it to a basically defenseless citadel,
Yeah.
rather than going 160 days into the salt lands, which isn't going to be nothing but salt.
Yeah,
Your chance is to take the citadel because there's water there. You can grow plants there. That's their shot. They got to take that shot.
Exactly. If we can make it through Joe and we can kind of catch them off guard and pass them to get back to the Citadel, there's not much resistance there. The people will be on our side. We show them the wives. We show them what's going on. And hopefully we can turn kind of opinions and take the Citadel from Joe. And again, I don't want to gloss over this part, but I mean, it is more of the same, and I mean that in the best way possible.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the canyon chase is the highlight to me, but here you go. It's like the third big chase. You got the first is like Furiosa kind of being chased before, like, by Max, where he's still the blood bag, and like Joe and all them just setting out. Then you have the canyon chase, and now you have your last kind of big chase, which is the chase back to the Citadel. And again, it's a more of the same, but that is like, that's the stuff you want. It's like the best stuff possible. Like, we finally get the resolution to some stuff we've been seeing the whole movie, like Mr. Guitar Guy.
Oh, yeah. I forgot to mention, anytime you ride into battle and you got a vehicle that's just dedicated to your fucking music. You got your big ass drums. You got a guy out front with a guitar that shoots fire like. Come on.
You got something.
Come on.
You got something. I think I read that guitar actually weighed like 130 pounds, like even strapped to those cables and stuff. Like, that's like a real Australian musician and stuff. Like, again, why is it there? Because it's cool.
Because it's badass.
Because it's badass. It adds to the world building. It fits into this, like, everything is shiny and chrome, ride to the gates of Valhalla badass world that you've kind of created here.
You got these guys kind of being swung in on, I guess it's stilts. Sometimes got chainsaws.
Or like pole vaults kind
kind
of thing that are attached to the cars that kind of lean over. They're like yanking people out, putting people back,
some
coming
dropping
down with
grenades.
chainsaws.
Some got chainsaws,
A bunch of just cool car shit. Lots of old lady deaths.
Yeah.
Lots of unfortunate old lady deaths. You get at one point Furiosa's kind of beaten pretty badly. She's actually stabbed as well. So you kind of have this scene where Max is kind of trying to save her life, and kind of he's the universal donor, so he's kind of connecting his blood and giving her blood because she's like, what is it, exsanguinated, something like that, whatever the term is that the old lady says.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. She's smarter than me. I can't remember. I can't remember the term.
She was a smart old bird.
Yeah, but like, again, I don't want to gloss over this stuff, but I mean, it's all action. It's all action. So it's hard for us to kind of break down, like, and this happens, and this happens, and this happens.
Yeah, Furiosa manages to rip Joe's face
That
completely
was
fuck off.
going to be my next point, is like, the ultimate takeaway here is that Immortan Joe's face gets completely ripped off. And again, in another kind of badass moment. And to go to our kind of our finale of the film here, they do ultimately make it back to the Citadel after they've crossed through Joe's forces and everything else. They get back to the Citadel. They've got Joe's dead, faceless corpse strapped to the hood of his own like war rig, I guess, which is also badass. And with the populace of the Citadel kind of on their side, seeing that Joe is dead, because they were all kind of under thumb of Joe. He wasn't like this benevolent leader. He was a priest. He was a piece of shit.
He would release water and leave it turned on for like half a minute and turn it off.
Exactly. He wasn't a beloved leader.
No.
He was a dictator. So they see his dead body and they're asking for the powers that be. They're still kind of let people into the Citadel, like, let them in, let them in. And you see them kind of lower the little, I guess, like, what would you call it? Like the platform.
Like a platform, yeah.
Down for them to kind of drive the rig up on. They all kind of ascend. And I just really love the ending of it because, like, I just love how, like, Max is there and then she turns around and he's, like, in the crowd. And you just kind of see that, like, just like that. Yeah. Little chin shunt of recognition, like, we did some shit.
We did some stuff.
You're pretty all right, Furiosa. I hate your guts. As soon as they call cut, I hate your fucking guts. But right now,
in the context of this film, you're okay, girl.
I really love the ending. Like, it is like good. It's just like a good ending here. They go back there. They're dispersing the water throughout the people there, like finally giving them what they need, and and just again, Max he's there 1 second and he's gone the next, because his character's not meant to stay around. He's not the guy that stays. He's not the guy that hangs out. He's the road warrior.
He's the road warrior. He's got to be on that road.
He's got to be on it. Yes. Hopefully he gets his badass interceptor back as well, Todd.
Yeah.
But that is the conclusion of Mad Max Fury Road. Possibly one of the best films ever made. Honestly.
Yeah.
Honestly. And to kind of go right off of that, is this the best Mad Max film, Todd? Is it better than Road Warrior? Why or why not?
Road Warrior was always my personal favorite. It's been a while since I saw the Road Warrior. If I'm going original trilogy, for me, it was always Road Warrior, Mad Max, then Beyond Thunderdome. I think this takes my top spot easily, with Road Warrior slotting right in behind it comfortably.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I love Road Warrior, too. I have the same order. It's Road Warrior, it's original, then Thunderdome. This, I think, takes it just because the pure originality, the amount of stunts and practical effects mixed with special effects, the look of the film, the performances. Road Warrior is fantastic, but this is a different animal completely. It's not a movie you could have made in the 80s. Like, for what Road Warrior is, it's fantastic, and it is more of a close dystopian apocalyptic future where really the thing is it's about getting some gas and that kind of stuff and fighting off these weird mutant assholes and people in chainmail bikinis and stuff, like it's and kids throwing around like boomerangs that slices off your thumbs and stuff. Like it's its own weird little world, and it's fantastic, but this is on a different level. I think for me, by far, this is the best Mad Max film, I think. Like, Road Warrior is close. I say by far, but Road Warrior is close. It's right there, right behind it. So, Todd, what is your review score, and give us your final thoughts for Mad Max Fury Road?
So, I remember when this movie came out, this thing blew up big time. I mean, people were blown away by it, and if you're watching this and you've never watched this movie, definitely watch this movie because you're going to see why. This is an amazing piece of cinema done by a filmmaker that knows what he's doing, folks. He knows exactly what he's doing. What defines a masterpiece? I think this may be my first one, but I think I'm going to give this a 10. Mad Max Fury Road is a masterpiece of filmmaking. It's very little special effects, a lot of practical effects. It's a simple, but it's a good story. Well-defined characters. I love it. I think this is a 10 all the way.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I said as soon as I was done with it, I'm like, it's a 10. I'm like, there's nothing that I can do there's nothing I can take away from it. There's nothing that I would say negatively about it. It all works from top to bottom. Performances, the look, the cinematography, the filmmaking, the creativity. It's there. It's something that should be celebrated. I think it also, it's the first Mad Max film I think that was nominated for Oscars, and I think it won like 6 of them.
Nice.
And like it deserves every bit of it. Like it's a fantastic film. If you've never seen it and you're into this type of film, or you somehow have watched the other 3 and not watched this, you have to watch Fury Road. By all accounts, George Miller has potentially done it again with Furiosa.
We've already heard possible another masterpiece in the making.
Yeah,
so.
we're about a week or so from release. About in about a week or so, it'll be out in early previews, and we'll be able to see it. But we've heard 9s and 10s across the board, and
I went from no heat to I'm excited for this one.
Exactly. That was my final question. Is like, what's your heat level for Furiosa, Todd?
Yeah, I remember when we first saw the trailer, I was like, oh my God, here we go. We're going to shoehorn in another Mad Max sequel somehow, or prequel. But after watching Fury Road and after seeing these early returns for Furiosa, I want to go. I'm excited for it now.
Yeah, I definitely have a lot of heat. I was take it or leave it, honestly, because I was like, my biggest question is like, can he pull it off again?
Yeah.
I was like, you had such a hit with Fury Road. Are we going back to the well one too many times? But like, it seems
from early returns,
seems like he went back, and seems like it's almost as good or just as good as Fury Road from all accounts so far. We'll see in a week, and hopefully we'll have that review for you here in a week or so too, and let you guys know from our perspective. But one other thing too that I think it's a little bit of a sad note, because like I think I read that like Tom Hardy had signed on for 3 Mad Max films, where that was in 2015. It's almost 2025, Todd. That's not happening.
That ain't happening anymore, is it?
Doesn't seem to be happening, and that really sucks, because like I would
kind of feel like some meat got left on the bone there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's one thing. It's like, it's that old showbiz thing of like always leave them wanting more. There's always a good part of that is like, it's so good that you want more, and like leaving us with that like longing to see more Tom Hardy Mad Max is a good thing. Maybe if they did it, maybe it would be one too many times.
Yeah.
But it is kind of a little disappointing that we don't get to see a little bit more Tom Hardy as Mad Max. Like Furiosa may be awesome, but like I would love to see that character continue to evolve and see what George Miller could do with it.
Definitely.
Anything else before we wrap it up here, Todd?
I think I'm good to go.
Well, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Go ahead and check out all the playlists we have available on the channel. We've got plenty of other videos. We'll have the Mad Max Furiosa video coming up in a week or so. Talcapes will definitely return. We want to thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye, guys.
See y'all.